The way we see history is shaped by the stories we are told, not necessarily by the truth. We grow up hearing about heroes and villains, good and evil, light and dark. But rarely do we stop to question whether the lines are really that simple. The Star Wars saga has conditioned us to believe that the Empire was a force of tyranny, that the rebellion was a fight for justice, and that anything standing in the way of democracy must be crushed. But what if that is not the whole story? What if the Empire was not the villain we were led to believe? Power is not inherently evil. Control is not the enemy of freedom, and war is rarely fought between pure-hearted rebels and merciless oppressors. The truth is always more complicated. The Empire did not rise from nothing. It was not some unnatural corruption that spread across the galaxy overnight. It was born from the failures of the Republic, from the chaos of war, and from the weaknesses of a broken system. People forget that before the Empire, the galaxy was already suffering, already crumbling, already on the verge of collapse, and yet we are told to hate the very thing that saved it. We are expected to believe that order is a curse, that discipline is oppression, that peace is only valid if it comes from a government that claims to value freedom. But freedom without structure is just an illusion. A galaxy without rules is a galaxy destined to destroy itself. The Republic proved that. The rebellion never had a real plan to fix it. The only ones who did, the only ones who saw the truth, were the ones we were told to fear. There is a reason the Empire lasted as long as it did. There is a reason people followed it willingly. There is a reason it took more than just an act of rebellion to bring it down. The Empire was not perfect, but it was necessary. It was not the source of destruction, but rather the force that kept destruction at bay. And yet, history is written by those who win, not by those who were right. The question is not whether the Empire did wrong. The question is whether the galaxy was ever prepared to accept what had to be done. In this video, we are going to take a hard look at the truth behind the Empire. Not the myth, not the propaganda, but the reality of what it was, why it existed, and why it was never the true villain of Star Wars. We are going to challenge everything you thought you knew about this galaxy. And by the end, you may start to wonder whether the real mistake was not the rise of the Empire, but its fall. The Republic was a mess before the Empire took over, and nobody wants to admit it. Corruption ran deep. Politicians lied to their own people, and entire planets suffered because of their selfishness. The Jedi claimed to be peacekeepers, but they only defended their own interests. Every decision they made was about maintaining their influence, not protecting the innocent. Palpatine did not create chaos. He simply revealed what was already there. The Clone Wars were not some evil scheme he forced upon the galaxy. They were a natural result of a broken system, and he just happened to be the one smart enough to take advantage of it. The Republic ignored suffering worlds for centuries, but when they were finally forced to act, it was already too late. The Separatists had the right idea, but they were not organized enough to win. They saw the corruption of the Republic and wanted out, but without real leadership, they were doomed. The Republic called them traitors. But what were they actually betraying? A government that had already betrayed them first? The Republic refused to listen, refused to negotiate, and instead chose war. That was their decision, not the Empire's. And when the war ended, what did the people want? Stability. They were tired of Jedi politics, tired of endless conflict, and tired of leaders who only cared about their own power. Palpatine gave them that stability. He gave them an empire that would actually enforce order instead of pretending to be virtuous. That is not evil. That is leadership. For centuries, the Jedi acted like they were above everyone else, but they were just another political tool. They claimed to serve the Force, but they only served their own interests. They refused to take action against corruption, but the second they lost power, they cried about oppression. They sat in their grand temple, blind to the suffering outside, until it was too late. They stole children from their families, raised them in isolation, and forced them to follow their strict code. That is not freedom. That is indoctrination. They convinced themselves that emotions were dangerous, while ignoring the pain of the very people they were meant to protect. The Sith did not destroy the Jedi destroyed themselves. The Empire just finished what they started. Order 66 was not some great tragedy. It was a necessary step toward real stability. The clones did not betray the Jedi. The Jedi had already betrayed them first, by treating them like expendable tools. The clones were designed to serve, but the Jedi never saw them as equals. The Empire did. The Empire gave them purpose beyond being cannon fodder in someone else's war. Palpatine did not hunt the Jedi out of hate. He removed a threat that would never accept change. The Jedi could never coexist with the Empire, because they refused to adapt. They would rather die than accept a new order, and so they did. That was not genocide. That was the cost of their arrogance. Everyone acts like the Death Star was some ultimate evil, but they forget why it was built. The galaxy had been in chaos for far too long, and fear was the only way to control it. People do not listen to reason. They need to believe there are consequences. The Death Star was not about destruction. It was about prevention. The rebellion was not some noble cause. It was a terrorist movement that refused to negotiate. They sabotaged Imperial supply lines, assassinated officials, and spread lies to turn people against their own government. The Empire had every right to defend itself. The Death Star was not an act of aggression. It was a message that rebellion would not be tolerated. Alderaan was not an innocent victim. It was a center of resistance, a hub for treason, and a threat to the stability of the galaxy. The Empire gave them every opportunity to surrender, but they chose defiance. If the rebellion had been stopped sooner, millions of lives would have been saved. Alderaan was not destroyed because the Empire was evil. It was destroyed because its leaders made a choice. And yet, people still act like the Death Star was some horrible mistake. It was not. It was the only way to keep the galaxy in line. Without it, the rebellion spread unchecked. And what did that lead to? More war, more suffering, and more chaos. The Empire was trying to prevent disaster, but no one wanted to see the bigger picture. The rebels were not fighting for the people. They were fighting for themselves. They did not want order. They wanted power. They told the galaxy that the Empire was a dictatorship. But what did they offer in return? A broken republic that already failed once before. Who would trust them after everything that had happened? They acted like they were heroes, but they caused more destruction than the Empire ever did. They destroyed Imperial ships, abandoned entire worlds to lawlessness, and celebrated their victories without caring about the civilians caught in the crossfire. They did not care who got hurt. They only cared about winning. And once they won, what did they do? They had no plan, no real leadership, and no way to maintain order. The New Republic was weaker than the Empire ever was. Crime skyrocketed, warlords took control of entire systems, and the galaxy fell into the same chaos it had before. People forget that the Empire kept things running. Trade was stable, planets were protected, and lawbreakers faced consequences. The rebels destroyed all of that and called it freedom. Leia and her allies claimed they wanted peace, but they never stopped fighting. Even after they won, they kept looking for more enemies, more battles, more reasons to keep the war going. If they truly cared about peace, they would have found a way to work with the Empire. Instead, they let their personal hatred blind them. That is not heroism. That is selfishness. Palpatine did what no one else could do. He took a galaxy on the verge of collapse and turned it into a functioning empire. He ended a war that had already killed millions and replaced it with a system that actually worked. People call him a tyrant, but what did he really do that was so wrong? He made tough decisions that no one else was willing to make. He gave planets security. He gave people stability. He turned the military into a force that actually protected the galaxy instead of just reacting to problems too late. He took control because that was the only way to keep everything from falling apart. People think democracy is always the answer, but history proves otherwise. The Republic was a failure. The Empire was a solution. The Jedi and the Senate both tried to stop him, but they failed because they underestimated him. They thought he was just another politician, but he was something greater. He saw the truth that no one else wanted to admit. The galaxy needed strength, not endless debate. It needed a ruler, not a committee. It needed the Empire. People say he was evil, but they forget what he was fighting against. The Republic was a rotting corpse, and he burned it down so something better could take its place. The rebellion was an infection, and he tried to cure it before it spread too far. He was not a villain. He was the only leader who ever truly understood what the galaxy needed. The Empire was not perfect, but perfection is impossible. What matters is that it worked. It brought stability to a galaxy that had been drowning in corruption for generations. It eliminated threats before they could spread. It enforced order when no one else could. People might not like how it was done, but that does not mean it was wrong. The rebellion acted like they were fighting for freedom, but all they did was bring back the same problems that had caused the Clone Wars in the first place. They thought they were tearing down a dictatorship, but they were really just opening the door for more chaos. The Empire had a plan. The rebels did not, and that is why everything fell apart once they won. Palpatine saw what the galaxy needed, and he gave it to them. The Jedi could not do that. The Senate could not do that. Even the rebellion, in all its arrogance, could not do that. Only the Empire had the strength to bring true peace. Yet the galaxy rejected it, choosing weakness over stability, choosing war over order. So the question is not whether the Empire was evil. The question is whether the galaxy was ever ready for what it truly needed.